All right, so Jimmy had shortened the bolt to get it into place. However, that being said, what we are doing, as you're seeing, is we are going to remove the intake itself. So as we've been putting this on, all the holes actually aren't aligning correctly. So what's happening is when we go to pull the actual bolts in, it's not this way, it's this way with the head. They're actually not lining up correctly. So since this is aluminum, what we're going to do is we're going to, on these holes here, we're going to make those a little bit bigger. And what that's going to allow us to do is line those holes up. The intake itself is lined up on the heads correctly. We just want to make sure every hole has enough space in there. So when we're clamping that down, because your pressure is actually on the top. These aren't threaded. So if you open that up a little bit, it allows that bolt to center in there more correctly.
No bolts and no holes.
Right now, that's just not happening. So what we're going to do is we're going to drill those out.
We're taking the end pieces out of it too.
Yeah, we're going to take the end pieces out of it too. The gasket sealant hasn't set up yet, so that's actually pretty good. This is actually something we should have probably.
Okay, just take it out there and turn it upside down.
Okay. This is actually something we probably should have done from the get-go, but we
I'll
didn't.
tell you right now, it's a good thing we did this, and here's why. See where I smeared the gasket sealer?
Yeah.
It hasn't moved. In seals is causing the whole problem.
Okay, well, there's another little thing. So we will be back. We're going to drill this intake manifold out, get those holes open a little bit.
No, we're not.
No, we're not?
Maybe not.
Okay, 1 second.
Maybe not. Don't get that manifold dirty. I mean, whatever you do, don't get anything stuck on the gasket shit. I'll tell you why. We're going to, we get the end seals out, it'll probably let it sit down, that way the bolt holes will come in alignment.
Okay.
I've seen this many, we don't run no end seals in our fuel injector.
So if you look here, what Jimmy's doing is he's actually taking these cork gaskets off. They are a lot thicker than everything else. So what it looks like is the end seal is preventing it from actually going down. So we're going to actually do just a little bit of a, what would you say, Jimmy? Learn by trial and error over the years?
Yeah, if it don't work, as one old guy told me years ago, he said, remember boy, when I was a teenager, if it don't fit, get a bigger hammer.
Yeah. So what we're going to do is I'm taking it.
Okay, go get it. We're going to set it back on there, just see if that fixed it. If not, then we'll do the drilling.
So this is a custom application, obviously, and that's why, as everything else that we've been doing with this, have to modify some things, recheck, and
I got it from the bottom.
go from there. Okay. So we're gonna go back down with this and kind of see where we're at.
Now what we're going to do is we will be taking it right back off.
Yes.
But I want to see where the bolt holes are coming into play now. And I don't think they're going to do it.
No, it's still. Actually, that one lined up.
These
It's still hitting.
okay, take it off.
So we're gonna take this off and we're gonna go drill these to make sure these bolt hole lines up. Remember, these are budget heads. This is a very custom application building this engine. A lot of times with the stock intake, stock engine and all that, you probably wouldn't run into this. But like I said, the deck of the block has been milled. We do have a 70 thousandths Cometic gasket, so that spreads everything out, different heights. And this is aftermarket, and it is a quality intake, but sometimes it is what it is. You just check everything, modify it, and race it. So we'll be right back. As you can see here real quick, Jimmy is putting more gasket seal around there. We went ahead, as you just saw, made those holes a little bit bigger on that intake manifold. Reason we decided to show you that, as you can see, that's something we probably should have done from the beginning, but we didn't. But as you can see, sometimes, especially with aftermarket things, these heads, everything else, that you kind of got to go in there and make some modifications. It's not hard. Wasn't rocket science. It's just something that needed to be done. It's kind of a good thing to show when you are doing a custom application. So what we're going to do here is Jimmy is putting more of the gasket sealer of the RTV gray around these here. The other stuff hasn't quite set up, but we're going to do a little bit thicker. And we're not going to go with the cork gasket. The only reason being is because it was too tall. So we're going to do it the way that he used to do it, is come in here and make this his own gasket. So right now, what we're going to do is just go ahead and do that. And
If the scammer calls, leave me alone.
yeah, that's one thing too, is Jimmy runs his own business. And, just like everything else, there's always the robocalls, the scammer calls, all that stuff. Jimmy, what's the craziest thing you ever saw on a drag strip?
Well, outside of a guy and a gal in the 70s streaking, them days ought to come back, by the way. Of course, I hope they're younger people. If the two people that streaked back then streaked now would probably be 80 years old.
Yeah.
But, no, I mean, I've seen some pretty wild rides on a racetrack. I mean, I've seen top fuel cars do blowovers, stand 3/4 way down the track, stand up. I wasn't there the day Garlitz had his blowover, and then the car turned around and came back towards the starting line.
Yeah.
That was probably one of the weirdest things I've ever seen a video of.
Yeah, that was quite crazy.
I've seen funny car bodies blow. The old days, the early days in the 70s and stuff, funny car racing wasn't nothing like it is now.
Yeah.
Obviously, everything was slower. But what was cool was, besides the short shorts and the halter tops, and Jungle Pam.
Yeah.
Jungle Pam was always cool. Funny car bodies that blow up, and I have no disrespect for the funny car guys. I mean, my heart went out to every one of them because fire was a big factor, and it's always been a big factor in funny cars. And sometimes they just explode. A lot of times they go straight up in the air. Of course, they weren't carbon fiber; they were heavier and fiberglass. And a lot of times they'd be down at the other end of the track to burn clear to the ground. By the time the safety safari got there, and I mean they were on top of it as fast as they could. But when you're running 250 mile an hour, and you got fuel pumped to nitro, and you're on fire, you're fanning the flames. You're running 250 mile an hour. So, it is what it is. Okay, give this a shot, see what happens.
Take two on putting the tunnel ram down.
I got it.
You got it?
I got it.
Oh,
Yeah, my foot's set.
all right. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and set this thing down just like we did before.
Hopefully everything lines up. Everybody lines up.
Ready?
We're there, dude. I think we're home free this time. From what I can see so far. Don't quote me.
It does look a lot better. When we initially put this on, you start looking at it, you're like, oh, hey, those holes don't really line up all that well. So the first step is you kind of square up the four corners. And mind you, with this, always measure your bolts.
And I'm going to work on the problem child first back here.
Always measure your bolts, not like by a tape measure, but just visually look at them. Because in a lot of cases, there are different size bolts for these. And with this big block Ford,
This big block Ford's being a pain in the ass.
most of these are the short ones, and then there's longer ones for the four corners. So just keep an eye on the bolt lengths.
We're gonna run a tap through that hole.
Okay.
I'm not worried about it because it's a blind hole. That means nothing will fall inside the engine. But I know that we ground that hole out.
Yeah.
So we're going to attempt to put some more bolts in it first. That would be a pain.
That was the one being initially the pain.
Oh, I know.
There you go.
That start?
Yeah, that one started.
Cool. That's like the world should be.
So what we're doing is we're actually squaring up the four corners on this to the heads. Doing that, basically what happens is at that point, it holds everything else in place. We did check the rest of the holes.
If
They are
everybody
good.
did their machine work right, everything should be in alignment.
And unfortunately, that's not the case.
But I'm beginning to wonder about that one back there. Depends on which country it was manufactured in.
Yes, it does. As a reminder, we are using anti-seize on these.
That's got to be shortened. That one bolt.
Ain't much there.
You got one that's not starting?
No, it's starting. It's just,
Oh, that's the long one?
yeah. Actually, Jimmy, did you? Here's the four long ones here. Man, that's just not. There's nothing there.
So you kind of like that old Johnny Cash song? Went put in the bolts and all the holes are gone?
Oh man, telling you.
Well, we've got some issues. I'm gonna have to shorten. I got plenty of bolts here.
Yeah, but I don't have.
But it's the head of the bolt. Actually, the washer below the head of the bolt is hitting the tolerance. So I can't get a wrench on it to help crank it down in there. So I'm gonna have to shorten.
All right, so
You got that microphone on?
what we're gonna do is go ahead and start working on this. Play some tunes in the background. Well, we're done putting the intake manifold on. As you can see, we did have to modify some things. This is a custom, if you want to call it one-off engine. Once again, budget heads. Not everything lined up perfectly, so there's another tip on buying budget heads. The one thing we didn't do, we should have done, is we should have checked everything a little bit more in depth from the beginning. But as you saw, we went ahead and we took that burr bit with that grinder, opened those holes up a little bit just to get better alignment. The other problem we ran into was the gaskets on there, so we made our own. Letting those dry up. We got the tunnel ram on top. We got that sealed up. I'm sure you saw us take it off. Well, we had gasket matched everything in here, and when we put the gaskets on, we noticed we needed to trim those up a little bit. They were slightly a different gasket. So yeah, I'm pretty happy. This thing's looking great. Very much appreciated to Jimmy on everything with this. He showed me a lot. I'm learning a lot. And so yeah, it's going really good. So that's how you install an intake manifold on one of these big block Fords. One of the reasons though, real quick, Jimmy was talking to me about this, that we were having problems with getting the manifold bolts in there. As you can see, this is a tunnel ram. Those are a little bit longer. They don't really want to go in at an angle, so we did have to trim them down a little bit to get them to fit. So once again, this isn't really hard, but you do have to modify some stuff in there. But you know what, guys, we're getting much closer. I'm going to come back this weekend and do a couple other odds and ends on this just to get things buttoned up. If you're wondering what the blue tape is for and the rags, well, those are holes. And guess what? You drop stuff down in there, you're kind of screwed. Stuff's coming back apart. So just remember that. Little safety first on that. It's looking good, and we're getting there. So I will see you guys later. Have a good one.